Ooh, girl, are you exhausted and worn out? Like, you need deep soul replenishment, but there's just no way you can travel right now. I got you. This is why I'm hosting a virtual rest retreat at the end of February, and you're invited. It's a real chance to get rest at a fraction of the cost of an in person retreat. And you can do it at a pace that works for you. You don't even have to go anywhere to receive this rest that you need. Learn more and join me at aliciamichelle.com/virtual rest retreat. Hi, I'm Alicia Michelle, best-selling author, ICF certified coach, and neuro coach. I love helping Christian women discover practical ways to manage emotions with science and scripture so they can live with more calm, more clarity, more confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Find a cozy spot and let's get started. Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of the Christian Mindset Coach with me, Alicia Michelle. Last episode, we talked about rest and how many of us know we need to rest. This isn't a call to remind us to rest. We all know we need to do it, but we might be trying to rest and it's not working, or we might be just blowing past that need. Either way, many of us are stuck in these patterns of hidden burnout where it feels like I am just forced to keep going. I can't stop. There's so many responsibilities. There's so many things that need to happen in my day. And I'm left exhausted and tired. And I just find myself saying, God, give me the strength. Lord, help me through. And there is this guilt because we think, Lord, I'm asking you for help. Why can't I find rest? We know the verse, Matthew 11:28, that says, when Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. It almost feels like this tease. I'm not saying the word of God isn't true. Please hear me. It is absolutely true. But if we can't understand how to access that, and it feels like we're doing what we think we're supposed to be doing, and God's like, come to me, I'm going to give you rest. And you're like, I'm coming to you. So why don't I feel rested? Have you ever been there? Raise your hand if that's you. I definitely have felt that way because you feel like, am I doing something wrong? Am I missing something spiritually? Nothing's wrong with you. This is about understanding more on your rest need, understanding more about yourself, not about a brokenness that you have. So I want to remove that guilt and confusion around that verse and turn it into a fresh invitation that's surrounded by a knowledge of how rest is in our bodies, how God created different types of rest, and to see that as an invitation that's not the same for each one of us, and that it's an intentionality, that there's different parts of ourselves that need rest. Our job isn't to fix our rest need, but to know enough about ourselves and how rest works so that we can learn those signs and seek him for that rest, put ourselves in places where he can give us the rest. Remember, we're not about working harder. God has never told us to work harder to get what we need. It's about remaining in the vine, as that very famous verse, I believe it's John 15, remain in the vine. To remain in the vine, that's when the fruit comes. So many of us want the fruit without remaining. And when I say remain in this context, it means remain in understanding how he made you to rest and how he made your body to rest. Put yourself in a place on the vine where you're open to receiving the sunlight, water, and nourishment from the main plant. Put yourself in that place so that he can bring it. I think that's what is missing for a lot of us. It was what was missing for me. In fact, I lived there most of my life where I felt like I just need to try harder to figure out how to rest. I guess I just need to work harder at rest, which is really weird and crazy. When I did try to stop, I didn't stop very often, I'll be honest. I just kept pushing forward. And that was because I was driven by feeling that if I performed, I was good. And when I didn't produce something, I wasn't good. That was this underlying truth for me. I tried what I thought was helpful. My husband would say, why don't you just go have a pedicure, or go get your nails done, or go to the store by yourself. When my kids were young, it was like, I just needed some time, or go take a nap. And it's not that those things weren't helpful, but I did them like I described in the last episode of throwing darts in the air. I was just kind of throwing them. I was just doing these Hail Mary passes, hoping that it would stick. And I had no idea what would make me feel rested. I just knew that I felt exhausted. My husband would say, "Do you want to do this or that?" And I was like, "I just know that I'm tired. I don't know how to fix it." If that's you, then I hope that what we talk about today is really encouraging. I know now that I just didn't understand what kind of rest they needed. What if rest isn't something we fix? It's something we learn to receive as we understand how he made us to rest and we understand our signs. One of the best explanations I've ever heard about rest and the different types of rest was in a book by Sandra Dalton Smith. It's called Sacred Rest. And she lists 7 types of rest: physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, spiritual rest, sensory rest, social rest, and creative rest. Now, we're going to break each one of those down, and I want to talk about what it looks like. And I even want to give you a Bible verse to help us better understand how these are biblical in terms of how we see God using them in creation, how we see them and how he designed us. I hope that as you hear these, it helps you not just feel like, well, I'm just going to try this sort of thing for rest, but you can begin to go, oh, that is what it is. Because that's what it did for me. It helped me to say, oh, I've been trying to meet my need for physical rest by doing something that's really under spiritual rest. Do you see what I'm saying? It is very powerful to understand these. So let's go for the first one: physical rest. Physical rest is what we think of most when we think of rest: a ceasing of activity, a slowing down. Maybe it is taking a nap. Maybe it is just being in a place where we are not as active. And we do need that restoration. We do need that physical power because we exist beside physical bodies. Our soul and our spirit will go on forever. But for right now, we are trapped in these mortal bodies. God wants to help us find this rest. It says in Isaiah 40, verse 2, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. He talks about how young men will stumble and fall, but those who trust in the Lord will soar on wings like eagles. Physical rest can get depleted very quickly, especially because we live in a world where there is this nonstop activity. We live in a world where there are the ability to turn on light in the middle of the night. For generations and millennia, that didn't exist. When the sun went down, everyone went to bed. What could you do? Even if you had a little candle, it was something. But now we are a 24-hour society and our bodies are paying for that. So we have the natural cycle of feeling tired at night and sleeping. He created our bodies, but there are times when we are beyond capacity and he wants to heal us. And that's physical rest. Mental rest. If you listen to the previous episode, we talked about how in the Emotional Confidence Club, there are women who were feeling overwhelmed. We had all agreed that the overwhelm we were feeling, it wasn't necessarily physical overwhelm of tasks to do. It was a mental overwhelm. It was the nonstop worries, fears, circling around different thoughts, the what if she does this and what if this doesn't happen, like that kind of stuff. And that is exhausting. One verse that I feel really exemplifies this, where God is saying, you need to stop, you need to rest, is the story of Moses and the Israelites. They just escaped from Egypt, one of my favorite stories in the Bible. They were running from Pharaoh and his army, and they were backed up against the Red Sea and freaking out because they're like, we have the sea right here and all these soldiers coming at us. And what are we supposed to do? And Moses's response to them was, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Now, he wasn't talking about physical stillness. He was talking about the stillness in their hearts, the stillness in their minds. They needed that stillness. So if that stillness in your mind is something that feels like it's crying out, that could be mental rest that you need. Emotional rest is very similar to mental rest, but I think emotional rest is tied to mood swings, up and down feelings. If you are processing some big stuff, maybe you're going through a changing season, struggling with grief or unsure about something coming up, that those feelings, when you know those feelings rising up and they're starting to just take over your life, where you're like, I can't even be calm enough to do what I need to do, that is that emotional rest. Our emotions drive our whole soul and body. They can affect all those areas. Now, God wants us to learn how to manage them in a way that honors him. I feel like this verse in Psalm really explains when we feel overwhelmed by them, what it can do to us. Psalm 61:2 says, from the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. You ever had that feeling of just, I am faint because I am so consumed with this emotion, and I need you to lead me beyond this to something that is bigger than who or what I am. That is emotional rest. Spiritual rest. Spiritual rest is that certainty, that calm that we crave, that only God can bring. Foundational peace, foundational joy. I always think of just that rest or that place spiritually with God as like the clearing in a forest. It's that center area where we know it's secure, we know it's stable, it's safe. It's not in the thickets of the wilds of everyday life. It is this place where we're known, where we're loved, where we're seen. And spiritual rest, it requires us to surrender sometimes, to put things down, to trust Him beyond our abilities. It's that place where we know I can't do this and I need to release it all to you. What if you could step out of the noise, slow down your mind, and feel close to God again without the cost, travel, or logistics of an in-person retreat? If your schedule, budget, or family responsibilities make getting away unrealistic right now, I want you to know something. You can still experience the heart of my San Diego Rest Retreat virtually. The virtual retreat is a more accessible, affordable way to experience deep rest with God, giving you everything you need to create your own meaningful rest experience right where you are. You'll receive access to all 3 core retreat teachings with the option to join us live or to watch the recordings at your own pace. You'll also receive a guided workbook, exclusive video devotionals, and simple guidance for creating your own personal rest retreat at home. Our retreat takes place February 25th through March 1st. But remember, you don't have to attend live. We will have the recordings if these dates don't work for you. Friend, you're longing for rest with God that truly restores. This is your invitation to find rest that works for you. Learn more and save your spot at aliciamichelle.com/virtual-rest-retreat. Again, that's aliciamichelle.com/virtual-rest-retreat. And it might just be even a directional thing. I need to stop spinning my wheels about how to solve this, but just to spiritually say, Lord, you've got the reins here. I'm going to let you show me. That's what Psalm 62:5 talks about. It says, let all that I am wait quietly before God, for my hope is in Him. Like the Israelites sitting on the edge of the Red Sea, we're wanting answers. We're wearing ourselves out with this desire for answers. And that is exhausting. Sometimes we don't even realize it because we're so caught up in everyday life asking for answers because that security and the control that comes with an answer we think will keep us safe. But what if what we're really needing is spiritual rest, the ability to release it to Him and to wait quietly before Him? The last 3, sensory rest. This was something that I had no idea about when I first started learning about rest. I thought, this is the thing for me. I've done an episode previously on being a highly sensitive person. If you are an HSP, highly sensitive person, you will definitely recognize and see this as a need for you in your life, and that is sensory rest. Sensory rest is a lot of noise, a lot of chaos. It can be a lot of light. It can be anything where our senses, sight, sound, hear, taste, touch, all that, where it's just beyond what we want. It's too much. That we need a break. If you've ever had someone touch you over and over on your hand and it's like the skin becomes irritated, like that's a really easy way to say sensory overload. We know what that concept is. God wants to restore us. Psalm 23, verses 2-3. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to His name. God knows there are certain things in this world that will calm us, and that could be the removal of noise, or it could be being put in a place like a calming stream, sitting by a waterfall, sitting outside in a green meadow or some sort of creation. It brings a sensory rest. And I feel like this is especially important for us to know if you take care of young children or people who make a lot of noise, or there's a lot of noise in your job. this is something to pay attention to. Creative rest. Now, I got to tell you, creative rest is one of my favorite rests. I am a creative person. I always have been. Some people are like, I'm not creative. I'm one of those people that says, I believe everybody is creative, but I will say that for me, being creative has always been who I am. So I have always loved to, from the very earliest ages, want to cook or draw or paint or play the piano or sing, just be crafty in some way, design something new. For a very long time, there's some things that we do in childhood that we enjoy, and then we start getting busy with real life, quote unquote. And I forgot a lot of that side of myself. I didn't make things. I became very much in survival mode with cooking. I wasn't creative and drawing and all those things. It just wasn't happening in my life. And I recognize now that I was really depleted in that area. And that was part of why I was so fatigued and exhausted. I needed to understand that, especially if you are someone who has that creative bent, if you feel that release in creating things and doing things, if you don't have that, it begins to build up inside of you, because some of us more than others, we were made to be able to express ourselves in different ways. That's part of who God made us to be. God is the ultimate creator, and we were made in his image. So having the ability to do things creatively brings so much release and calm for me. And I know for a lot of people, it's an awesome way to worship the Lord too. Psalm 29 verse 2 says, worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. There is worship that can happen when you are doing something as simple as baking bread. If you know me, you know that I have recently started baking my own sourdough bread. And yes, I'm jumping on that train. Everybody's like, oh, you're jumping on that train. I don't know. I'm just doing it. There's a whole story behind why I'm doing it, which I won't get into. I feel like when I do it and I can experiment with it and draw different designs on my dough itself, I'm even starting to do some different colors on top of my dough to make art. It feels like an expression and a worship back to God to say, thank you for what you've given. Thank you for this daily bread. The very last one is social rest. If you are an introvert, you probably have figured out that there's a certain capacity that you have that is more limited maybe than other people about the amount of time that you can spend in other people's presence. I am married to an introvert, and I understand this well, because when he reaches that capacity, I at first thought he's mad at me or I did something wrong. I had to unwind myself from that, because I realized this man is just, he's reached his social capacity. We kind of joke about it like he has a certain number of words a day and he's reached his limit. I just will say, are you just having a quiet day? Or I'll say, have you said all your words today? And he'll say, yes. Then I know. Even if you aren't an introvert, I classify myself as an ambivert, right in the line between extrovert and introvert. I know that there is a point where I need rest to take a break from people. There's also the flip side of social rest where we might need to get out and be around people, where loneliness might be the thing that's depleting us and making us not feel rested. We might be craving connection with other people. That might be part of what it is. But it's that connection with others, the ability to bring this side of rest. Psalm 133 verse 1 says, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. One of my favorite things to do is to go on a walk with a friend, or to get alone with one of my family members and have some time to do something, whether it's creative or just going shopping or just everyday things. For me, that is restful. Learning what that balance is when you've gone beyond that limit or need more of it is part of that need for social rest. When I started seeing that there were different ways to get rest, when I started learning about what it felt like in my body to have a need for each one of these types of rest, that's when everything changed for me in terms of rest. I began seeing and being honest with myself. This is an area that I really needed rest in. I could see it. And then I would learn, let's try this. Let's see if that would help. It was this curiosity, this experimentation to see if I did this, would this help? And sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. But over the years, the more I have done it, the more I've realized when I'm feeling this in my mind, my soul, my body, this helps. And I think each one of us, the prescription for that is a little different, but it does take the time to be curious and learn about it. And it takes time to learn about what are the signs. We know that incredible verse In Isaiah 30, verse 15, it says, in returning and rest, you shall be saved. So we have to do this dance with rest where we have to know enough about ourselves and our needs to know how to put ourselves, like we talked about in the beginning, putting ourselves on the vine for God to bring the fruit. We have to be in a place to receive and for Him to do the work. It is the fruit of the Spirit to have this replenishment that we're all seeking, but we have to be in the right place to do that. And when I do that, I notice that I'm less reactive. I have more clarity. I find myself praying less for strength and energy. I find myself making different choices in my day. And I feel less guilty about making space for rest. When we talk about rest, there's this idea of ongoing rhythms of rest. But I think a lot of us, what we really need, especially if we're super depleted, is more of an extended time of rest. Now, I get it. We'd all love to just run off for a month and live on a deserted island by ourselves and get some rest. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's talk about rest in the reality of everyday life. When we understand that we are at these places, I don't think we need to be told that we need to be resting. I think we just need to understand, how do we figure out what it really is that we need? We need space to slow down. We need space to notice it. We need space to be with God without necessarily trying to fix ourselves and make the rest happen. We need to notice what's there. And when we put ourselves in those places and take those steps, that is when He brings healing. That's why I created this rest retreat that I'm doing in late February. If this has been resonating with you, this whole concept of rest in this very busy world and feeling like what you're doing isn't working, then you're invited to join me. We have all the spaces filled for the in-person aspect, but I want to invite you to the virtual side of it. The virtual rest retreat is going to have all the things that we're doing at the regular retreat, the in-person side, all the teachings. I'm going to pre-record some video devotionals for you guys. You'll have the teaching workbook. We're going to be doing a silent rest day at a local California mission, but I will lead you on how, if you want to do that as part of your experience. I created this because many of us can't afford to take much time off work. I can't afford to go away to San Diego and get a flight. I just can't do that. I can't get away from my kids that long. I have other responsibilities. It's just not possible. And yet I don't feel like that should keep us from learning these things. I think you can still learn the things that we're going to be talking about from the comfort of your own home. And guess what? You can do it in your own time frame. You are going to have the ability to join us live if you want. You can ask me questions. You can do all of that. But if you're like, that time doesn't work for me, or I can't do it, we're going to be spreading it out over 5 days. Girl, you're going to have the recordings. You can set aside your own time to go through and do these things. And if it takes you a month to go through it or 2 months, that's fine. If you're like, I want to binge it in a weekend, or I want to binge it in one day, that's great too. Everyone has different schedules. And I understand that we have to be able to make this work for us. I believe that rest doesn't happen accidentally. It happens when we're given permission to do it, the guidance around how to understand what we need to do to get to that rest. So I want to lead you through this process. I want to tell you about the 7 types of rest. I want to show you what it means and why so many of us feel guilty about rest, and maybe why some of the things that you've been doing to get rest, why they're not working. I want to give you dedicated times to be honest before the Lord about these things. It's not just inputting information. There's going to be dedicated times for you to come before the Lord and participate even in some of these different types of rest. Now, again, in the in-person element, we are including all 7 types of rest. That's going to be part of this experience. But I am going to be giving you ideas of how you can include these 7 types of rest in your own virtual experience. There is literally no excuse. I want us all to have the ability to learn these things and the space and the time to do it. There's practices, rest practices, time to process. It's not about performing or needing to get it right. You're going to walk away. God will reveal things. But most of all, I want you to understand more about how He made you and what you need right now, and to step into this rest in a very practical way. The other reason that virtually, I've never done this before, so this is an experiment, but the reason why we're doing it virtually is because there are ladies that I've learned some of the free resources I've offered, like the free Notice and Name course. I've noticed that there is a large majority of women who are like, I don't want to go in a group and talk about my feelings. I just want to do this by myself. That's really uncomfortable to me. I get it. Some people are like, yeah, let's go. I want to meet other women of the Lord. And I love being able to serve those kind of people too. But if you are someone who's like, I don't want to talk about this stuff, I don't feel safe, I totally get it. That's why we created this as a virtual experience. You can get all of the information, you can have the teaching, you can create in a way that works for you, in a time that works for your schedule, in a way that works for your budget. This is like 1/6 of what it costs to be able to go to the retreat. I wanted you to be able to have this full rest experience from your home in your real life in the middle of your actual season. There are all the details about this retreat and how it works virtually at the website aliciamichelle.com/virtual rest dash retreat. It'll tell you all the things. You can go through the materials at your own pace. You're going to have access to this information. You will be able to join us live if you want to, or you can have the recordings. If you can't join us live or you don't want to join us live, you can do that. You're going to get the PDF workbook that we're doing. I'm going to record just for the virtual attendees. I am going to record myself doing the devotionals. We're going to be doing ours right on the beach. So you guys have them before the actual retreat itself. There's also even a mini course that explains if you want to create your own in-person experience, how do you go away for a weekend and just like have a rest retreat that actually meets your needs? What does that look like to create the atmosphere, to create the timing? What can it look like on a budget or more extended time? That's something God has helped me do. And I find so much relief in those things. So there's a little mini course that talks about that. And then there's also all the retreat participants, even the virtual ones, you're going to have access to an online community 30 days before and 30 days after the retreat. So you can get to know some of the other ladies if you want to. You can connect with them and with me as you learn, or if you want to DM me and we can talk back and forth. There's a place you can connect and feel like you're not alone. You can share some of the things you're experiencing. I'm so thrilled to be offering this option. I hope you take advantage of it because this could be life-changing. This education, this time dedicated, this gift to yourself. How can it change how you show up for this thing you're walking through right now? That thing that's hard, that thing that's coming up in 6 months that you're going to have to figure out how to manage. What's on the horizon, maybe with changes in your family or with your kids or with your parents, the shuffling at work and the concern about your job, the sickness going through your family, and you're worried about your own issues in your body. You're like, Lord, how am I supposed to keep going? We need ways to understand ourselves and our rest needs. Join us and let me show you what that could look like for you. Let's together figure out and live in some of these forms of rest to get the replenishment that you need. I pray that if this is resonating with you, you will go to that website, aliciamichelle.com/virtual rest retreat and check out the rest retreat. It is something like if you felt, I know that I need to have a rest retreat, but it's like sometime that's like out of my budget, or I don't have time to go away, or I can't dedicate it right now. I don't feel comfortable per se with other ladies. This is a awesome solution for you. So join us at the virtual retreat if that resonates. Even if you decide not to come, I pray that you are able to take some of the things we learned in this episode and stop zoning out. I don't mean that in a harsh tone. I pray that you can see that God has more for you. He does not just want you to stay in this place of exhaustion and suffering. He wants you to understand how he made you, and he wants to give you relief. But part of that relief might be understanding more about your rest needs and learning how to meet those. Take great care, and I will see you back here for next week's episode. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining me today. For full show notes and helpful next step resources, visit aliciamichelle.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd be honored if you'd leave a 5-star rating and review. Thanks for being here. I'll see you back next week.